Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. Do you have Peter King's coffee, Lauren? I mean, of all the beverages
that is
that
fantastic.
You have yet to have how many people have?
Thank
Peter,
you
have
so
you ever?
much.
Hold on a minute. Let's see. This is Peter King before.
Yes.
Mr. Coffee, essentially. You're the 21st century
Me
Mr. Coffee.
before.
Okay, this is.
And now.
How many times have you ever taken your first sip of coffee for the day on camera before?
No, I don't think I ever have done that. This is historic. It's
This is
historic.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Peter King's first sip of coffee for the day
is at 12:20.
Wow.
Yeah.
What happened?
It was a busy morning. I worked out, blah, 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 blah. I don't know.
Man, usually it's the first thing. Those two jamokes, my Chris Command Center, never have had
Never
coffee.
had coffee.
Never have had it.
Why?
I had a second grade teacher scar me with bad coffee breath.
I used to
Oh,
think
really?
Turned off to it.
I used to think
instantly.
coffee stunted your growth, and I wanted to be tall, and so I never drank it.
Yeah,
Hey, let me just ask you one question now.
Okay.
So, will you always be scarred by the smell of dung on an airplane?
Yes, I will.
I mean, that is one of the great stories in NFL
man,
history.
It wasn't even the dung was bad, but it was the residual vomit from people throwing up that also made
Yeah.
the cabin. I mean, hazmat had to board, Peter.
Yeah,
It made
that
your
is
travel
just
note of the week.
Is this
unbelievable.
your proudest moment to be asked by Peter
By the
King
way,
about
we
dog
have this
poop
day in
gate?
history coming up on that. By the way,
When is it?
it was
June,
it
your
was in
anniversary?
May. It was
No,
in
I
late
think
May.
it's June.
Well, hey, I interviewed him about that.
I know, it's the greatest
interviewed
thing
him
ever.
about that.
I was in the backwoods of Virginia at a
It's the
greatest
bachelor
thing.
party, and my phone kept cutting out. You
At a
remember?
bachelor party.
And I'm like, Peter King's calling me, and I don't have cell service. Come on.
Oh my gosh.
I'll tell you when it is, because we were DMing that day.
Let's
Boy,
see what
was
the
that
date
great.
was.
That was so great.
Yeah, May 29th, I believe.
Wow.
Was the day.
How are we gonna celebrate the 1-year anniversary?
By vomiting.
Bring my dog in?
By vomiting.
2-year anniversary.
Bring Hudson in.
2 years?
2 years ago.
2 years.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. All right. Well, Peter King's having his first cup of coffee.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, May 28th.
Macchiato.
It's May
It's not
28th.
bad when you can Google your name and
There it is.
poop, and
Good luck.
you get 70 hits.
We were DMing.
The Philadelphia Eagles have a quarterback controversy on their hands the moment that happened until maybe today when Sam Bradford, as I mentioned at the top of the show, showed up for work saying that he's all in on the Philadelphia Eagles. And joining us here in the Rich Eisen Show, AT&T studios here in New York City for the week, from Sports Illustrated, the man who created the MMQB.com and whose Monday morning quarterback, including today, is always must read. Good to see you, Peter King. How are you?
Rich, great to be with you. Welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you're back in your town.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. I just love the pulse. It just feels like I never left. And for our radio audience, the TV audience saw you take a sip of coffee for the first time
Yeah.
of the day.
It's not
And you
often
seem
that
to-
I have my first coffee at like noon.
Yeah, noon
It's not-
Eastern.
It's not good.
Okay.
Yeah, had a busy morning.
But I got to tell you, you seem the same, though. It's not
Yeah.
like you seem like this. You were a gregarious
There's
person
4
walking
shots
in.
of espresso in here, though. So wait about 10 minutes, and then I'll be good. But
You're bouncing off the walls.
greatest espresso story of all time, though, has to do with John Runyon. Did you know that John Runyon, the left tackle, former left
Michigan
tackle
man.
of the Philadelphia Eagles, former Michigan man,
Congressman Runyon.
Congressman Runyon,
Yes.
used to go to a Starbucks drive-through before home games, and he used to get in a venti cup 9 shots of espresso at a Starbucks.
Oh my God.
And then he would just pound that espresso for like the next 3 hours.
Yeah.
And then he was always, he was ready to go in the first half. And I used to wonder, what do you do at halftime? Don't you come down? Don't you crash at halftime?
What do you say?
I don't recall. I mean, I think he just felt like I need that to be really darn ready for
Did
the
you
game.
ever look up his second half stats of his career to
No,
see
I
if perhaps
didn't.
he had a lull?
Maybe Strahan abused him in the second half all the time. I don't know.
Strahan loves to bring up Runyon.
Yeah, he does.
To
They
me,
had
because
some
he
good
knows
games.
Runyon's a Michigan man,
Yeah.
Yeah. Strahan loves that. I have Peter King here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, so what did the Eagles tell Bradford? I've got Tom Condon on the show on Wednesday. I'm eager to hear it straight from him. Do we know what the Eagles told
I don't
Bradford
think-
when he signed on the dotted line?
I don't think they told him anything. I think they said, you're our guy. And he still is their guy. But, Sam Bradford has to know. He signed a 2-year contract. So he has to know that he is a sort of a tentative, not all in fix to the Eagles' quarterback problem. He's got to prove it. And that was the thing about this that, look, I understand totally that Bradford would be ticked off that this would happen. But really, what do you expect? If you're Howie Roseman and you have a chance to go get a guy who you believe is going to be, a franchise quarterback, if you have a chance to do that, you can't knock him because Sam Bradford, in 6 years, has not been a franchise quarterback.
But Tom Condon as well as anybody, and, he just doesn't spitball. He just doesn't throw things against the wall unless he sees where what the pattern might be on the wall after he does throw something up against it. Where do you think he thought the exit visa could be attained to prior to the draft, that maybe the draft played out in a way that put
Denver.
Bradford today? That's
Denver.
where you thought?
I think everybody thought that Bradford was going to Denver, and John Elway was interested in Sam Bradford. No question about it. He talked to Howie Roseman the day before the draft, maybe even the day of. Told me on Thursday night the Eagles just asked too much. And that's because the Eagles did not want to get rid of Sam Bradford. They only were going to trade him if they could have gotten really good value for him. And they obviously couldn't get good value. Who would trade a lot for Sam Bradford? He just hasn't
Chip Kelly.
played. Well, I don't think that, but Chip Kelly would have traded something for Sam Bradford. He wouldn't have traded a lot. He had a chance to trade for him, and he didn't. And that's because Sam Bradford just has never proven. And I love the guy. Sam Bradford is really a good person and all that, but it's just, it's what you've done on the field. He hasn't done it yet. I did a graphic, I think 2 weeks ago in my column, Rich, where I said that, the two guys who are right next to him, on the all-time quarterback rating list are Kyle Orton and Ryan Fitzpatrick. Not exactly a way to say, let's pay this guy $20 million a year for the next 5 years.
And isn't it amazing about just hearing how you're talking about how Elway knocks on the door of the Eagles for Bradford on the eve of the draft, if not the day of the draft, and Dallas knocks on Seattle's door to try and trade into the spot that Denver eventually traded into for Paxton Lynch, a move in a way that even though, that this would mean Jalen Smith would not be on Dallas, that Jerry Jones is kind of kicking himself over a little bit, and he's expressing that to you and other members of the media. What if Paxton Lynch is the next guy in Denver and does win championships? How tenuous it really all might have been to lead to that spot. That's some of the things that I just love about the draft.
What's amazing, Rich, you're right. And look, you know what? The first one of those that we're talking about is Jerry Jones with about 2.5 minutes left at number 4 is sitting there deep in thought in a silent draft room except for the TV on, thinking. At the time, remember, he's sitting there at 4. The Baltimore Ravens are sitting there at 6. The Ravens have offered him essentially a 4th-round pick, the 104th pick in the draft, to move up 2 spots. And the Cowboys almost certainly would have gotten Ezekiel Elliott if they moved down. The Ravens were moving up to get Jalen Ramsey. More than likely, the Jacksonville Jaguars would have sat right there and taken DeForest Buckner. And then, Ezekiel Elliott. And then, obviously, the San Francisco 49ers would have had a choice to make, and I believe they would have taken Ronnie Stanley. So just imagine how those 4 dominoes would have fallen differently, how it would have been so incredibly odd.
And with that 4th-round pick, would he have had a little bit more firepower to get up into that first round? Would that have been the difference maker?
He would have offered
for
the extra 4 for Lynch, but I think at the end of the day that John Schneider was only interested in the 2nd and 3rd, the 67th pick in the draft that Dallas had, that they, that I think Dallas's point was all along that, we are not going to over-offer for Paxton Lynch. But the reason why Jerry kicked himself so much at the end is that he was willing to give a 2 and a 3 to get up to, say, the Jets at 20 and, or to go up to 18 or 19. He's willing to give the 2 and the 3 to do that. But he wasn't willing to do that with Seattle, even though they would have gotten the exact same guy in Paxton Lynch. And the next day, I sat with Jerry Jones at Cowboy offices, and he was just, Rich, this was not something that Jerry Jones will soon forget. It's something that is not going away. And Jerry Jones is going to watch Denver's games for the next few years, and if Paxton Lynch becomes good, he'll have nightmares about it. He will have nightmares
Even
about
if
this.
Romo does win him a championship?
Oh, well, not in that
Yeah,
case.
understood, yeah.
But let me just also say this. Here's why the draft is so fascinating. If you look at the 15 football people in the Cowboys draft room at that time, I don't know what the breakdown is, but I can tell you there's some people who very much wanted to go get Paxton Lynch, and there's some people who said, wait a minute. There's no way that we can go the first 100 picks in this draft without getting defensive help.
Sure.
We need help on defense. And, so I think it worked out the way that a lot of the football people in that organization really wanted it to work out. They believe that Jalen Smith is not only going to be a pretty good player for them, but is going to be like their new cornerstone leader on defense. For a long period of time because of the kind of guy he is. And, but how ironic is this? They love Jalen Smith. They were so happy. They were pumping their fists. They were great. If Emmanuel Ogbah had been there at 34, they were taking Emmanuel Ogbah over Jalen Smith.
It's so amazing how this
That's
works.
why the whole thing is just a total, absolute roller coaster.
It is. Peter King here on the Rich Eisen Show studio. We're going to take a break, come back in 60 seconds, and find out Jerry Jones was watching the NFL Network, right? On that TV that you mentioned. Hold on a minute. Don't give me the answer yet. I'm going to be sitting in limbo for the next 60 seconds just like you with Peter King next. Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show here in New York City, where Peter King's Red Sox staved off a sweep at the hands of the moribund Yankees. Brockman just pumped his fist, too. David Ortiz, we could be seeing the greatest walk-off season of all time, correct?
It's unbelievable.
In baseball?
And
Or maybe, I'm throwing out there, any sport. I mean, we've seen guys like Strahan and Ray Lewis and Peyton Manning.
His start has been absolutely incredible. I mean, and think about it: the Jerome Bettises, the Strahans, the Ray Lewises, and everything. Peyton Manning, they won a title at the end.
Yes,
but did they play at the absolute top of their game?
Which is what Ortiz is doing right now.
Which is, Ortiz has never been hotter early in a season than he is now.
Well, it's because he's played the Yankees six times.
Yeah. But I think one of the interesting things is how he keeps keeping the door open a little bit.
Does he really?
He's been keeping the door open
So what does he
a little
keep?
bit.
Or all the teams need to keep the receipts on the gifts that they're giving him right now?
I think he is definitely planning to retire, but man, how are you going to walk away if if you're hitting 11 home runs a month or whatever he's hitting?
So he's got a little bit of the Favre in him right now. Trying to think about. I may or may not.
I don't know. I don't know the guy, but
I don't know. He's made videos. He's got a logo. His final pop. Brockman. That would be a monster
If he comes back next year.
reversal. You'd be fired up about it.
Oh, I'd love it, of course. I went to the game on Saturday. Of course, he hits home runs on Friday and Sunday.
And then Price can't get anybody out.
Price is so bad.
That is shocking. The David Price thing.
He can't get anybody out.
Shocking. That's awful. I mean, the Yankees have like 3 guys missing, and they just absolutely abuse them.
I don't even know what's going on with the Yankees. It's something maybe we could figure out by the time I hit the road here on Friday. I'm in the New York City AT&T studios all week. I've got Howard
You're
Beck
going
and
to
Bleacher
have to go
Report
to a
coming
game.
up.
Are you going to go to a game? Come on.
I think I could.
Royals.
Well, I mean, my wife is flying in today, and
She likes the Yankees.
she does not. She loves the Red Sox.
Don't put this on her,
my
Rich.
gosh.
Don't put this on her.
What do you mean?
She's on the good side.
Not going
Peter.
to a game because she's in town.
No. I'm not going to game because she's in town because I've got tickets to see Hamilton tomorrow night.
Oh, you got him.
So I got them. We'll talk
Yeah.
about that later on
Nice.
because
Okay.
our children will no longer be able to go to school
Right.
for what I paid for them.
Right.
But
I saw Hamilton. But first, can we
Yes.
just talk about what Jerry was watching in the draft room?
please, I'm kind of the look you gave me going to break.
Well,
got me a little concerned.
Rich,
Yes.
they the Cowboys, I was not in the draft room, but my impression is that the Cowboys alternate. All right. But there was a key moment in this draft where they're watching The Evil Empire, where they're watching ESPN, and John Gruden comes on, and I wrote about it in my story about the Cowboys draft. After they take Ezekiel Elliott, John Gruden comes on when the Cowboys celebrate in the draft room. Gruden comes on. And I said it was like he was talking to one person, Jerry Jones, because Jerry was transfixed on the screen, according to people who saw this. He was transfixed watching the screen and watching John Gruden say, hey, Cowboys, their work is not done. They have got to come back up into the first round and get one of these quarterbacks who they like. This is really important for this team. And Jerry was like, that's like his mantra. He knew that he was going to try to do that anyway. And I think that for him, that to not get the quarterback is disappointing. But as I said, for many in the organization, I think they're happy they got two defensive pieces.
Yeah, but I mean, also, you talk to Mayock, Daniel Jeremiah, talk to any of my guys that I work with, whose opinions and evaluations I hold in the highest of regards, that if you just took this year's quarterback class and threw him in with last year's draft class, Lynch wouldn't even be close to a first-round pick.
Yeah.
He wouldn't even Wentz and Goff wouldn't have gone 1 and 2 if Winston and Mariota were available. It's just this year these were the guys available, and last year they were disastrous without Romo. How would Paxton Lynch help the Cowboys avoid another year like last year if Romo goes down in
First of all,
week 2 again?
I'm not sure that that's true about Goff and Wentz not being in the 1 and 2 crowd. I'm not saying that
if you throw Winston and Mariota in?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
I'm not sure that, I've heard a lot of differing opinions on this. And I think there is universal respect for Goff's day one readiness, and there's universal respect for Wentz having the ability and the presence of mind to be a really good long-term player. And again, and I think there's the same for Mariota. If you gave me any choice of the 4, I'd take Mariota. But I think all 4 of them have a chance to be really good. Now, Lynch obviously is a little bit more of a project, even though he had some great success at Memphis. Rich, quarterback beauty is definitely in the eye of the beholder.
And you want to talk about, everyone's so high on Jacksonville again, and for good reason, because of what another great draft that they seemingly had. But Tennessee now. You mentioned how you take Mariota out of all of them. Okay. Yeah. There's Mariota. They now have DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry in the backfield that now has an offensive line with Jack Conklin helping get that up to snuff.
Yeah.
And they've got tons more picks. I mean, Tennessee could be a team.
Tennessee's going to be pretty good. Tennessee's going to be good. Jacksonville, hey, I totally agree with everybody. They have 4, if you count down to Dante Fowler, they have 4 huge new pieces on that defense. Huge day one pieces on that defense. Mm-hmm. Malik Jackson, Miles Jack, Jalen Ramsey. And Dante Fowler. That they might have their 4 best defensive players who are just walking into camp right now, in effect. But, Rich, you know what? Blake Bortles, the quarterback has to play. The quarterback has to play and play well, or else, we can talk about this all day and it really doesn't matter.
Well, I'd like you to stick around for one more segment, if I may, because when we come back, I got a phone call from somebody who wants to know about another former number 2 overall pick in a draft quarterback that seemingly is going to be a starter again in the National Football League. That's coming up next, as Peter King will give me a review of Hamilton to see if I absolutely lost my shirt for a play in a musical that's not worth me seeing. But I think you'd be the outlier if you think this isn't the greatest thing of all time. That's what I'm hearing. And once again, he's giving me a look going to break that makes me very nervous about what I'm about to hear after the break. Peter King is here. Howard Beck in hour number 3. And your phone calls at 844-204-RICH as the story of baseball, in hour 2 as we'll discuss, can no longer be told without mentioning this man's name. That's coming up on The Rich Eisen Show. Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. Peter King from the MMQB.com, Sports Illustrated, NBC Football Night in America is here. Don in Cleveland, regular of the Rich Eisen Show. You're on. What's up, Don?
Hello, Rich. Thank you for once again making dreams come true.
And that's talking to Peter King, correct?
Yeah, correct. And you also allowed me to talk to James Brown.
Oh, that's right.
The famous, oh my goodness,
Mr.
Rich.
Jim Brown. Yeah, that was fun.
Yes.
We're trying to get him back on the Los Angeles studio. So what's your question for Peter?
Yes, Peter, how do you feel that RG3 can do this year, considering what's around him? I count on your knowledge.
Thank you, Don. Appreciate it.
Well, you know, I like a quarterback who's going to be coached by Hugh Jackson. I think he's a very confident guy. I'll never forget before training camp last year, adamantly him saying to me that, or Hugh saying to me that Andy Dalton is going to be better. We don't accept that he's hit this wall. You watch this year, he's going to be better, and I think significantly better, and he was. Look, RG3 knows that this will be his last really good chance to be a starting quarterback in the NFL and to be a franchise quarterback in the NFL. If he fails, then he will have a nice career until he's 38 years old at being a backup quarterback in the NFL. You know, his ceiling will be Kyle Orton if he fails this year. So he knows that this is my shot. I have a coach who believes in me, and I am the guy this year, so here we go.
Sam Bradford versus RG3 week 1, Cleveland.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Philadelphia.
Yeah.
How about
It's
that
fantastic.
one right off the bat?
And, you know, to me, I think that RG3 has a chance, but I need to be convinced by him. I don't think it's a bad risk by the Browns, but I don't have a lot of faith that he's a really good long-term player. But we'll see.
In terms of risk reward, dollars spent for reward, what is paying 300% above face value for Hamilton tickets?
Well,
Where does that rank?
I saw
Peter King?
Hamilton, I don't know, about a month ago, and I really did enjoy it, Rich.
Okay.
I definitely enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really good. But the problem that I had is that the unfortunate thing when you're listening to a musical that is largely done in rap, the whole thing is done. So it's very fast. It's like Macklemore speed. And so it's very hard to hear a lot of the words very clearly. So it's like you're watching a movie that is in subtitles and you're trying to understand what people are saying. So that, I would just say beware of that just a little bit and pay very close attention, because the words are fantastic and very literate and excellent. But it's sometimes you really got to strain to understand. And my feeling is the best play I've seen in recent years, and I love plays, best play I've seen is The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. It's about an autistic kid in England and a dog and all that. It is utterly, utterly fantastic. And something is going to have to be incredibly good, at least to me. Now, this was good. It was well worth your time.
16,
really good.
16 Tony nominations.
Yeah,
16 of them.
Really.
So I've got a
amazing.
Tuesday night with the missus, and I got a Wednesday night. So it's either that or Royals Yankees. I mean, I think that's.
Well, here's the point, though, Rich. Rich, the point is that.
Honey, do you want to go see Ned Yost tonight,
Rich,
or do you want to go to Broadway?
Rich, the point is that it's going to be good weather week this week.
It is.
So if you got a 68-degree night and there's not a cloud in the sky, it's okay to spend it at the old ball yard.
Well, I got Costas in here tomorrow. Do we hit him up for tickets for Thursday night? I think he's doing the MLB Network game Thursday night.
Not a bad idea.
I think he could help you.
You think Bob knows somebody who might be able to swing us some tickets?
People, yes. Bob knows things.
I just don't want to pay over 300% above face value. That's all. I'm done doing that. What would you? Is that going to be our poll question in hour number 3, Brockman? Have you come up with that?
I have several options.
Well, give Peter the one.
If we want to go over them.
No, just go over real quick the one that we got a minute left. The one about spending on spend on an event.
What would you pay the most to see? The Super Bowl, NBA Finals, World Series, NHL, a concert, or a Broadway show?
Either a concert, if it was U2 or Springsteen, or the World Series. because the Super Bowl is not that meaningful to me because I go to all the Super Bowls. So
Well, if you weren't able to go,
If you weren't Peter King.
right? If you
I
weren't
don't
yourself,
know. I mean, I'd have a lot of problems spending $2,000 to go see anything.
And
you
the
know?
last, and I've got 20 seconds left. You always have stuff about flying. What are your thoughts on taking your shoes off on a flight?
The only time you take your shoes off on a flight is if it's a very long flight, like an overseas flight.
Overseas.
And you're not in anybody's line of sight or anything like that. Otherwise, you need to keep your shoes on.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter
that
King.
fits with me, though.
Not at all.
That fits with me.
You, sir, are a pig, and Peter King is a saint, and that's hour one of the Rich Eisen Show from New York. Thanks, Peter.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.